We often wait all of our lives for the perfect moment to show up, to put ourselves out there, to be vulnerable. But what if that perfect moment is never coming? What if being imperfectly human, which is our birthright, is all that was ever required? Because here's what I've come to understand. We're not afraid of failing. We're afraid of being seen. Failure feels survivable when it happens in private. But being seen, truly seen, and not being enough, that's the fear that keeps us from showing up at all. Today, we're going to talk about why vulnerability terrifies us, what it really costs us when we stay hidden, and how we begin to give ourselves permission to be seen. Not when we're perfect, not when we're ready, not when we have it all together, but exactly as we are. Perfectly imperfect, completely human, because that permission has always been yours. I want to be honest with you about something. I almost didn't do this. Not just this episode, the YouTube channel, the podcast, the showing up on camera and saying the things that have been mine to say for most of my life. I first started considering it 5 years ago, and for a long time it stayed there, in the considering. Because the fear wasn't about whether I had something to say. I did. It had been living in me for as long as I could remember. The fear was about being seen, about what happens after you let people in, about the moment someone decides who you are and holds you to a version of yourself you never claimed to be, about the pedestal you never asked to stand on, because I am human and I'm going to make mistakes. And I wasn't sure the world would have grace for that. The first time I ever put myself on camera, it wasn't YouTube. It was my first course I created 3 years ago. And when I went back and watched that version of myself, I saw someone who was timid, who was scared, who was figuring it out in real time. And my heart melted. I fell in love with her because she was scared and she showed up anyway. Because what I didn't know then was that the showing up was the healing. My first course took me 2 years to create, and somewhere in the writing of it, in sitting with each lesson, in the working through each topic, I was also walking through my own healing on every single level. Every time I sat down to create a lesson, I would light a candle and say a prayer, asking to be guided, to bring out the most honest, raw, and truthful version of what needed to be said. I wasn't just creating for others. I was also being called deeper into myself with every single word. And that's still true today. Every episode I bring to you is usually something that is alive in me that week. Another layer opening, another level of the same truth, asking to be looked at more honestly. And that brings me to this. I'm not coming to you from a place of having arrived. I'm a fellow traveler. Not that I have all the answers, but that I'm still finding them right here alongside you. And I'm grateful for that. Because in this, we can find community, understanding, and the humanness we all need. And yet, even knowing we need that humanness, we hide it. We manage it, we control it, we manipulate it. We present the version of ourselves we think the world can handle. Because somewhere along the way, we learned that being fully seen was not safe. That our humanness, our realness, our perfectly imperfect truth was too much or not enough. And so we became very skilled at showing people just enough of ourselves to feel connected, but not so much that we felt exposed. And we called that living. But it wasn't living. It was managing. And there is a profound difference between a life that is managed and a life that is fully lived. Because the fear underneath all of it isn't really about failure. We tell ourselves it is, but failure we can manage. Failure happens in private. Failure can be explained away. Failure doesn't require anyone else to witness it, but being seen, truly seen, that's something else entirely. Because the moment you show up, the moment you put something real of yourself out there, you lose control of the narrative. You cannot curate how you are being received. You cannot manage what people decide about you. And that is the real fear. Not that you'll get it wrong, but that someone will watch you get it wrong, and that you'll fall short, and that someone will be there when you do. And here's where it gets even more complex. Sometimes the fear isn't about being seen failing at all. Sometimes it's about being seen succeeding, about what happens when people notice you. When they place you on a pedestal you never asked to stand on. Because I've always believed as soon as you put a human on a pedestal, they are sure to fall. And it's not the height that breaks them, it's the expectation. The unspoken contract that says, this is who I've decided you are. Now don't you dare be anything less. And that expectation leaves no room for being human, for making mistakes, for changing your mind, for falling short on an ordinary Tuesday. And so you think, if I just don't show up, they can't be disappointed. They can't decide who I am. They can't expect anything from me. And staying hidden starts to feel like the safest choice. But here's what hiding actually costs you. Every time you don't show up, a part of you quietly contracts. Every time you silence yourself, the voice inside of you gets a little harder to hear. Every time you choose the safety of invisibility, you move a little further from yourself. And that distance accumulates until one day you look up and realize you have been so busy managing how you are seen that you forgot to actually live. And somewhere underneath all of this is a belief we absorb without even knowing. That our humanness is a weakness. That our struggles, our stumbles, our moments of not knowing are things to be hidden, fixed, or overcome. But I want to offer you a different way of seeing this. Because what if weakness isn't what we've been told it is? What if weakness is simply the vulnerability within a human being? And vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is where strength is born. Because every time you show up, despite the fear, every time you let yourself be seen before you feel ready, every time you choose honesty over performance, something shifts in you. A quiet confidence begins to build. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real and you survived it. And the next time it costs you a little less. And the time after that, a little less again. Until one day you realize the fear hasn't disappeared, but it no longer has the same grip on you. Because you know something now that you didn't know before. That being seen didn't destroy you. That being human didn't make you unworthy. That the people who matter don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. Because nobody relates to perfect, but everyone relates to human. And when you show up in your full humanness, something remarkable happens. You stop performing. You stop managing. You stop manipulating the version of yourself you show the world. And you just breathe and be. And in that exhale, you give everyone around you permission to do the same. That is the gift of vulnerability. Not just for you, for every single person who watches you choose to be real. And you become the permission they didn't know they were waiting for. If this resonates with you, I created a free class called Unlearning Shame and Guilt to help you start this work. You can find the link below. And I want to leave you this soul musing for reflection. Vulnerability is not weakness, but a mirror to another's soul. It is the gift of permission to step from the shadows and into the sunlight. Their bravery to be seen becomes courage for another, and the ripple effects expand across time and space. And I want to leave you with these questions for reflection. What would you do? Who would you become if the fear of being seen simply wasn't there? In this, where are you waiting to be ready when all that was ever required was to show up exactly as you are? And if this space speaks to you and you'd like to go deeper, follow along to be part of this community we are building together. Because I truly believe that when we begin healing ourselves, we create more compassion, more understanding, and ultimately a better world for everyone. With much love, I'll see you in the next video.